Welcome to Unit 2, Level 1 video notes, where we will solve routine 2 or 3-step problems that involve tax added and percentage off. First, let's review percent. Percent means out of 100. So back in middle school, when you had a 10 by 10 grid, that's 100 squares, and if you would have colored 17 of them, well, the fraction would be 17 out of 100, and that represents 17%. Now, if you divide 17 by 100, you get 0.17. And the shortcut is, if you have 17%, to get to the decimal, you would divide by 100. That's the same as moving the decimal back 2 spots. So 17%, move the decimal back 2 spots, you get 0.17. Now, on the other hand, if you're given the decimal, to get back to percent, you can multiply by 100, which moves the decimal to the right 2 spots. All right, let's put this into action. 25%. Percent means out of 100. So this is 25 out of 100. The greatest common factor is 25. So if you divide the top by 25 and the bottom by 25, you get 1/4. These fractions are equal. If you divide either of them, 25 divided by 100 or 1 divided by 4, that's 0.25. All right, so percent to decimal, I could have divided by 100 and moved it back, the decimal back 2 spots. So that would be a shortcut. Next one, 17.5 out of 100. Well, 17.5 out of 100 is 17.5%. If you divide this out, you get 0.175, or we could have moved the decimal back 2 spots because that's the same as dividing by 100, which is out of 100. All right, last one, 0.6. Well, this one's a little tricky. 6/10 is the same as 60 hundredths, and 60 hundredths is written like that, which is 60 out of 100, 60%. The shortcut for the decimal to percent is timesing by 100. So there's your 60, moving that decimal. Also 60 hundredths or 6/10, that can also be reduced to 3/5. All of these have a value of 0.6, which is 60%. In the real world, not everything is out of 100. So if I change the 100 squares to be a different number of squares, whatever's shaded out of the 100, what would be shaded out of the total new squares? And some of you might also be familiar with is over of, that's that part out of total, equals percent out of 100. And total, another way of looking at it is the whole. So my first are these 3 examples. What is 70% of 72? Well, I always get my proportion ready. And 17%, well, I always put it on the right side, 100 on the bottom. So out of 100 squares, I am shading 17 of them. That's 17%, and that's in the picture. Well, now I'm changing the total. It's not out of 100 anymore, it's out of 72. So 72 is going to go on the bottom like a total. So I'm changing this to be 72 squares instead. How much of those squares are going to be shaded instead of 17? If we cross multiply, 100 times x equals 17 times 72, and that is 1,224. Divide that by 100, moves the decimal back 2 spots, and we get 12.24. So 12.24 squares are shaded out of 72, and that's equal to the same amount of shading with 100 squares with 17%. Shortcut, 17% of 72. 17% as a decimal is 0.17. Of in math means multiply. So I'm going to multiply that by 72. What's 17% of 72? And if we do 0.17 times 72, I get 12.24 again. So that is a shortcut on the side if you're ever looking for the is. Next one. 65.4 is 55% of what number? All right. So I have 55%, so I know that's 55 out of 100. Now 65.4, is that your total or is there your part? Well, I want 65.4 out of what number? So the of part is the x, and 65.4 is on top. Cross multiply that, 55 times x, and 65.4 times 100, and we divide that out and get 118.9, and that's rounded. And if I ask myself, does my answer make sense? Well, 65.4 divided by 118.9 is 0.550042. It's really close to that 0.55, which is 55%, and that's because we rounded that 0.9. This one, if you try to memorize a shortcut, a lot of times kids mess that up. So I strongly encourage you, if you're ever looking for the of, just to do the proportion. Last one, 32 is what percent of 86? Okay, so out of 86, that's my total. I need what percent? So x is my percent, and percent is always out of 100, and 32 is the part. All right, so this is the one we're gonna solve for. So 32 times 100 is 3,200, and 86 times x is 86x. Take that 3,200, divide by 86, and we get 37.2093, and I'm gonna round it just to the nearest tenth because I'm done with my answer. Now there is a quick shortcut for this one. Lots of times this is like if you take a test. If you got 32 correct out of 86, that's definitely not passing. And if you divide that, 32 divided by 86 is 0.3720. And then if you solve this equation for x equals x over 100, ooh, you can't really see that, sorry, x over 100. Over here, I changed this to the decimal and I left this the same. Well, to undo that 100, instead of dividing by 100, I would times by 100 to cancel it. And whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. So really, that decimal, we can multiply it by 100 and get 37.2, just like here. So there's some shortcuts. I know it's a little confusing, but feel free to use them. Let's apply percents to the real world. You go to Kohl's with a 30% off coupon. Your total is $95.63. How much are you going to pay before taxes? So I want to find out how much I'm going to pay with that 30% off coupon so far. All right, so there's two ways of doing this. The first way is finding what is 30% of that $95. But then since it's a coupon, I'm going to have to subtract after. So that is going to be our process. First, let's find the 30% off. All right, so we have 30%, so that's my 30 out of 100. And my 100 is my total squares. And my new total now is not out of 100, it's out of $95.63. I want to find out what that part is that I'm going to get discounted. So let's cross multiply. 30 times $95.63 is 2,868.9, and that's equal to 100 times x. Divide it by 100 now, and we get $28.60. I'm around 68 to 69 cents. All right. So folks, that's just my 30% off. That's not how much I'm gonna pay. Man, I would love it if this with 30% off, I'd pay that, but that's the discount. So now I have to take my total and subtract my discount. If it was my taxes, I would add it on. So I'm going to take $95.63, subtract the $28.69, and I'm going to get $66.94. That's going to be my total for my discount, but not with my taxes added on. Now, the other way of doing this is instead of thinking about 30% off, well, instead of paying 100% of this bill, I'm actually going to pay for 70%. So it's a different way of thinking about this, that this total, I want to know what 70% of that is, and that's how much I'm going to pay. So let's just look at it, think about it. Just remember, the first way always works. All right, so if I'm actually paying 70%, that's my 30% off, 70% of my total bill, I'm paying for. So my discount was in that percentage right away. So this time I'm going to do 70 times $95.63. So I get 6,694.1 equals 100 times X. And when we divide by 100, we get X is $66.94. So in the end, it was still a two-step process. We either found the percent off first and then subtracted it from the total, or we subtracted the percents first and then found that percent out of the total. All right, so good luck with your homework. And the shortcut way, I have to show this too. 70% of $95.63. Remember, you can do 0.70 times $95.63, and that gives you your answer here. Or we could have done 30%, so that's really 0.3 as a decimal of the total $95.63. I can multiply that, and I'll get $28.69. That is my 30%, so then you would subtract it from the total again. So kind of cool. Lots of different ways. Whatever works and clicks, make it work for you. Good luck on Unit 2, Level 1.